Hi, fifth grade. We are ready for our lesson 93, and we'll take a look at some graphs and what we call comparative graphs. All right, so here's what we call a comparative graph. Now, we've seen these types of graphs in different situations with social studies and other places in last year's book as well. But I want to go over this just to touch base on some ideas. So, you have first your title. Always look at the title. It's going to give us the information we need to begin with. Participation in selected sports in New Zealand. So that's the first thing. That's what this graph is showing us. Participation in selected sports in New Zealand. The key over here tells me that the blue bars are talking about the males. The pink bars are talking about the females. And down here we have our sports written, and then participants in the thousands, meaning like in 2000, in the 2000s, not 1999, but 2000 and above. So they did a comparative graph here, and the blue line here for football shows the males, the boys, how many boys played football and how many girls played football. How many boys played tennis, how many girls played tennis. How many boys played cricket, how many girls played cricket, rugby, and then basketball. So by putting it in this situation, we can tell quite a few things. For example, if I asked you who plays more sports, girls or boys, you could easily look and then tell me that it's boys. If I asked you about which sport is there a greater difference between, we could start by looking at the boxes here. I could say there's 1, 2, 3, 4.5 boxes between these two. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 boxes between these two. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 boxes between these two. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. So the biggest difference when I look at where there's between the girls and the boys would be cricket. And I can see that there's a bigger difference between the amount of boys playing cricket and the amount of girls playing cricket. I could also say which sport has the most girls playing it, and you could look at the pink lines, and if I look at each pink line, I can tell that tennis has more girls playing it. If I looked at which sport has more boys playing in it, it would be close, but if we look at where it lines up on things, tennis also seems to be the most popular for boys in New Zealand as well. And we could just go back and forth. We could ask tons of questions about these graphs. We could look over here. This is at 100, 150, 200, 250. So when they have their pattern, they're going up by 50s. And each little line in between would represent a number, because we have 1, 2, if I jump from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 lines in between each thing. So if I take these first 50 and I divide them by 5, that means each line is worth 10. So this would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on up the line. So we could figure out how much each thing is worth based on where it is on the graph. Okay, that's a comparative graph. The second type of graph we have, I know this is a little blurry, but it's the best one I could find. Urban and rural population growth in Brazil from 1950 to 2010. This is also a type of comparative graph, but it's a line graph that compares, and it shows us trends over time. So we're looking at going from one time period to another time period, what has happened in a certain area. So they're talking about population growth. They also give us the key. They say the red line is rural growth, rural meaning farming growth, and the green being urban growth, meaning city growth. So we can look at what happens here. Actually, I always want you to look at what the labels are and what the title is first. So down the bottom we have the years, 1950, 1960, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, obviously going up by tens. Same along the side here. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. All right, so across the bottom are the years. On the side is the population, the amount of growth, the percent of growth in that year. Okay, so this is the percent of growth. All right, so if I look at that, and I have a couple questions on the bottom here. What happened to the rural population over the past 50 years? So if I look at rural population, what's happening to it? The rural population is what, increasing or decreasing or staying the same? And hopefully you said decreasing, because we read it left to right and we look at it and it's going down, decreasing, going down. All right, and the urban, of course, we see is going up or increasing. So it's increased its population growth. They decreased their population growth. Now the other thing I can tell is over which decades were the rural and urban growth almost the same. So I want to find out where they're about the same. And if I look, here's an intersection, so that would be where they'd be about the same. And I would take and go straight down from there. Okay, I'm in between here, so that would be between the 1960s and 1970s would be the decade where their growth was almost the same. Probably about 1965 would be close to that time, maybe 64 even, where their growth chart intersected and they were at about the same spot. Okay, so that's just two different types of comparative charts to go over, and go over the ones in your book on 611 and 612. And there is no homework for today, so enjoy your Tuesday, and hopefully things are coming along. If you have any questions on math stuff, please let me know. I know it's hard when we're not together, so let me know if you want to get together and over the internet, and we can talk and go over some things that might be confusing you. Okay? All right. Have a good one.